I just returned from my parents' home after giving birth when my husband, Emmett, declared our divorce.
I'm divorcing you. You're just too fat.
He demanded a divorce in a heated rage. This was unexpected, but convenient. So I said, "What a coincidence. I was thinking of ending things too. My name is Laura. Currently, I'm pregnant with Emmett's child." I had intended to continue working until right before giving birth, but my morning sickness got so severe that I couldn't go to work and had no choice but to quit. Stricken by nausea every day, even when Emmett went to work, I couldn't get out of bed.
"Hey, I'm heading out."
Sorry, have a good day." "What the hell? You can't even see me off? You're using pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy." I could hear Emmett grumbling, but I didn't have the energy to get up. Needless to say, I had no room to prepare dinner after he came back from work. I hadn't even managed to eat anything myself since morning. Seeing me still lying down, Emmett lost his temper when he returned home.
"What the hell? You're still in bed? No cleaning done? You haven't even done the laundry? What about my dinner?"
"I'm sorry, I feel very sick when I get up."
"Seriously? Fine, I'll go eat out."
He left without a second thought, not even concerned about me. After that, Emmett often returned home late at night, stopping for drinks after work. When my mother visited from my hometown, I was on the verge of malnutrition, only able to drink water. She rushed me to the hospital where I received IV fluids and began to recover, but ended up being hospitalized. Although my condition improved significantly during hospitalization, it would be meaningless if I returned to that state after being discharged. My mother suggested, "Stay at our home until your morning sickness is over." I was desperate for her offer, but I was worried about what Emmett would say. I nervously asked him, "My mother suggested that I stay at her place for a while after I'm discharged. What do you think?"
"Why not? I can take care of myself."
Surprisingly, Emmett readily agreed. My morning sickness started to ease with the reassurance of staying at my parents' home. However, during a prenatal checkup, I was told that I was at risk at preterm labor and advised not to move around too much. At the doctor's suggestion, I decided to stay at my parents' home until I gave birth. I was physically secure staying at home, but he seldom came to visit. Apparently, he seemed to be enjoying his bachelor life again, staying out drinking late every night. Even as the due date approached, Emmett's lifestyle did not change. I couldn't take it anymore and I called Emmett. "My due date is next week, so I'd really like it if you'd lay off the drinking for a bit."
"Why should I?"
he retorted defensively.
"It's not like I'm the one giving birth. Why can't I have a drink?"
"But you'll be at the hospital when I give birth, right? If you're out drinking, you won't be able to come right away."
"Don't worry, I'll make sure to keep the due date clear."
"But it's not guaranteed that the baby will be born on the due date. It could be any day now. You hardly ever come to my parents' house anymore."
"Your parents' house is just uncomfortable. Anyway, I've already made plans to drink on every day but the due date. If you want me to be there, try to give birth on that day, will ya?"
But even though I was being told this, things don't usually work out so conveniently. In the end, labor started 3 days before the due date. On the way to the hospital, I called Emmett. Emmett, labor started. I'm heading to the hospital now."
"What? It's 3 days early. What are you doing?"
"What can I do?"
"I've just started drinking. I can't leave right away."
"What? Are you kidding me?" Despite the fact that I was in labor and on my way to the hospital, he continued to drink. It was incredulous, but another wave of labor pain hit and I couldn't contact Emmett anymore. Once I arrived at the hospital, I immediately started preparations for childbirth. By the time I finished giving birth, Emmett was just starting to prepare to return from his drinking party. He appeared at the hospital late at night, unapologetically stating, "If the baby's born this early, there's no way I can make it in time, right? You could have held on a little longer." I was so exhausted from childbirth that I didn't have the energy to argue back. Emmett took one look at our baby and then quickly left, saying, "I can't stand the sterile air in hospitals," while exuding the scent of a woman's perfume. Seeing him like this, my mother wordly suggested, "Emmett doesn't seem very interested in helping with the baby. Stay here until your body recovers from childbirth." Feeling unsure about taking care of a newborn alone, I decided to take up my mother's offer to stay at her house. Emmett didn't seem to mind, telling me, "Stay at your parents' house as long as you like." By that time, I was already certain of my husband's infidelity. While staying at my parents' house with the help of my mother, I diligently collected evidence of my husband's affair. There was a suspicious woman among his social media followers. I scraped together all her posts with desperate effort. By the time 2 weeks had passed since my discharge, my body felt much better. It was about time to go home. After thanking my mother, I returned home to find the house spotlessly clean. Something's off. It's too clean. Someone must have been here. I stood dumbfounded. Emmett came into the room and said, "Hey, you haven't lost any weight. Is there still someone in your belly?" Those were the words he said to his wife, who had just come back after the monumental task of giving birth? I lost it completely at his words. You're kidding me, right? You can't seriously expect my belly to slim down right after giving birth. Then he replied, grumbling, Why are you mad? All the women back from maternity leave at my office are slim. You've been lounging around during your whole pregnancy and probably at your parents' house too. Maybe you should try taking care of yourself as a woman? What? How a woman loses weight after giving birth varies from person to person. Right now, my mind is full of concerns for this baby. You're my wife, you know. Such a fatty is not befitting of being my wife. I am your wife, yes, but also this baby's mother. I don't want to hear such things from someone like you who has no sense of being a father. Fine then, if that's how it is, then I'm done. I want a divorce from a fat woman like you. A divorce? Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. I've always thought marrying you was a mistake since seeing you during your pregnancy. I've been wondering when to bring it up, but it seems like there's no need to hide it anymore. What a coincidence. I've been pondering whether I should ask you to divorce. Emmett laughed loudly when he heard that. Who would have thought you felt the same way? This will make things easier. If you agree to divorce, you just leave here and finalize the divorce immediately. You really think it's going to be that easy? I'm going to make you pay child support and property division. Child support? Why? We're divorcing by mutual consent. I have no intention to pay anything because it's not my fault but yours. Are you serious? Place your hand on your chest and think carefully. As I said that, Emmett began to panic. What? What are you talking about? This. I showed him a woman's social media posts. There were a plethora of photos uploaded showing Emmett on dates with his mistress almost daily. While I was suffering from morning sickness while I was in labor on my way to the hospital, you were cheating on me with her. Can you still say you're not to blame? No way. She said she would make sure my face wasn't identifiable when posting on social media. It seemed he didn't even realize that his remark was the best evidence that he acknowledged his infidelity. From what I could see on social media, the two had indeed been having dates in our home. It may be that the mistress had been hanging out at our home more than what she posted on social media, as the house was always clean even when I wasn't there. Well, it doesn't matter now. I'm saying goodbye to Emmett, I firmly told him. The fact that you were cheating has been confirmed with your previous statement, Emmett. I will discuss the exact amount of your property division with my lawyer, and of course, you will also be paying child support. No way. In exchange, I'll leave this house to you, Emmett. Really? Seriously? Are you sure? It's just disgusting to me that your mistress had been in here. You better agree to the property division and child support before I change my mind, okay? I understand. I'll agree to all your conditions. Emmett was probably planning on living in this house with his mistress, but I don't care anymore. All I want is to get away from him as soon as possible. And the divorce proceedings were completed promptly. Until my life got back on track, I decided to live at my parents' home with my child. Since I was pregnant, I had a growing distrust for Emmett, and my mother, who had been worried about me, fully cooperated in the divorce after hearing about his infidelity. She found a lawyer on my behalf, unable to move much after childbirth. I'm eternally grateful to my mother. Although she says I can stay at home forever, I can't just keep relying on her indefinitely. I secured a new job and enrolled my child in daycare, starting a life just the two of us. I had a good encounter at my workplace and subsequently progressed well with them. A few years later, I happened to spot Emmett at a shopping mall. Accompanying Emmett was a considerably overweight woman pushing a stroller. To my surprise, I ended up calling out to him. Emmett, is she the woman you were cheating on me with back then? Emmett, who had noticed me, made a guilty face and urged the woman to a different location. Sorry, I ran into an old acquaintance. Could you go on shopping for a bit? The woman glared at him and answered reluctantly. What? An acquaintance? What's your relation to that woman, Emmett? You aren't trying to run away from shopping, are you? I've told you, I want to buy a lot today. I get it. I'll join you later. Later? How many minutes? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? I won't accept it if you make me wait any longer. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'll come after 10 minutes. Alrighty, only 10 minutes. If you're late, there will be consequences. Do you understand? I get it. It seemed that Emmett was entirely under the thumb of his massive wife, who turned out to be his former mistress. She's gotten quite big, huh? Is the child in the stroller hers? Yeah, that's right. I thought you didn't like overweight women. I guess I was wrong, huh? You said it too, didn't you? You can't get back in shape right after childbirth. She'll surely lose weight after a bit. I see. I smirked at Emmett, who retorted harshly. What is it? You think you can mock me? It's because of that attitude you can't remarry no matter how much time passes. You're the perfect example of a forever single mother. You might be okay with that, but don't you think it's pitiful for the child? Kids need a father, don't they? Yeah, you're right. I also think children need a respectable father. Caught off guard by my honest response, Emmett changed his tone. Hey, Laura, you're regretting breaking up with me now, aren't you? If you wish for it, I can break up with her and we can get back together. What? What nonsense are you saying? I don't regret breaking up with you, not even a bit. But you just said children need a father. Yes, I did. Hearing Emmett's loud voice, John came over to my side. Laura, what's going on? I introduced him to Emmett. Let me introduce you. This is John, my new husband. Wait, remarried? When did this happen? As soon as John saw Emmett's face, he seemed to understand and whispered to me. Laura, could it be? Is he your ex-husband? Yes, that's right. I happened to see him earlier. John looked a little awkward and glanced at our own grown child. The child is Emmett's, but John has raised him like his own. And inside the stroller John was pushing, our own baby was sleeping peacefully. Emmett glanced at the child in the stroller and said, Is that child from your new husband? Yes, that's right. Isn't that baby about the same age as our child? That means you've just had a baby, right? That would be correct. How come you've lost so much weight after giving birth? Well, it's been a year. You're referring to when you called me fat a few weeks after I gave birth, right? But my wife is still gaining weight. Isn't that because of poor diet and lack of exercise? Well, I can understand the desire to binge eat and drink under stress if you have a husband like you. What do you mean by that? I thought men wouldn't understand the hardship of pregnancy and childbirth, but after remarrying John, I realized that's not the case. From the moment he learned of the pregnancy, he was always considerate of me. He took over all the housework when I was suffering from morning sickness, and he always prepared meals that I could eat. I glanced at John and continued. Even during childbirth, he rearranged his work schedule more than a week before the due date so he could go to the hospital as soon as I called him. Of course, he made it for the birth and visited the hospital every day after the birth. Well, when you think about it, that's pretty standard. I let you go back to your parents' house when you said you wanted to, didn't I? That was just because you wanted to be with your mistress, right? Don't conveniently rewrite your memory. I'll never forget how, rather than worrying about my body when I came back after giving birth, you called me fat. But can't you blame me? Normally you'd think the body would bounce back quickly after the baby is out. Well, that's true. In my case, with the second child, I did bounce back quickly. It's probably because John was always considerate of me. I had no postpartum stress, and we did yoga and exercise together after birth. It's a stark contrast to you, who did nothing. Wait, I understand your worth now. Even though we're mistakenly with different partners now, can't we go back to our original relationship? Before I could object, Emmett's wife stormed up from behind, shouting, Emmett, what are you doing? It's been over 10 minutes, and what was that conversation about? Is this woman your ex-wife? Don't tell me you're thinking of leaving us and getting back together with her. You must be joking. It's not like that. What's not like that? You can escape from me. As punishment, I'm confiscating your allowance for this month. And next month's too. Please spare me. I need money for lunch. Well, bring a lunchbox then. Will you make it for me? Don't be ridiculous. I'm busy with the baby. If you're going to make it, do it yourself. You're even making your own dinner, so just make extra for your lunchbox. I can't believe I have to tell you everything. Use your brain a little. I'm sorry. From the looks of it, Emmett has his allowance completely controlled by his wife, and is even made to do housework. He was completely submissive to his wife and seemed to have shrunken. How things change when the partner changes. As they argued, John and I quietly moved away from the scene. When they were out of sight, I apologized to my husband. John, I'm sorry. You must have felt uncomfortable running into my ex-husband like this, right? No, it's okay. On the contrary, I'm relieved knowing you would never get back together with a man like that. Of course not. Thanks to that divorce, I was able to meet you, John. You care for both our child and my child from my previous marriage equally. All this happiness is thanks to you. My decision to divorce Emmett at the time was definitely not a mistake. It might actually be Emmett who regrets the divorce. That's what I thought. But it's too late for regrets. I have no intention of leaving John, and I'm sure Emmett's terrifying wife has no intention of letting him go either. From now on, I want to create many happy memories with my new family.